Cycle Park in Gainesville, Florida for the opening of the motocross season. I'm Art Ekman along with David Bailey. Just concluded the 125s, defending champion Steve Lampson. He got the overall, but the big surprise, second place, Scott Sheik, David.
Well, I think he surprised himself, Art. Who would have thought he'd be in second after the first round with all the talent that's in this class? But he proved that consistency is really going to play a big role in this series. Guys like John Dowd, who had problems with his motorcycle in the first moto. Also Pichon, who looked so fast in the first moto, got the bad start and went down the second moto.
Time for the superstars right now as we go to the big 250s, and Jeremy McGrath, he's on the roll.
Well, he is 6 for 6 so far indoors, and the defending champion, #1 plate on his bike outdoors, and he's sick from what I heard, so that's good news for him. Whenever he's sick, he wins.
These riders returning to their roots of this type of racing. This is the racing they grew up with.
Gainesville has been pretty good to me, other than a DNF or so that I've had there. I like the track. It's a fast track, but I mean, it's like I said, it's always been good to me, and it's the first national. It's just kind of like you know, you look forward to starting them as well.
I think the track has changed considerably over the last couple of years. You know, a lot of the sand has kind of disappeared, and it's more of a clay track now than I think it has been in, I don't know, the last couple of years, even when I was racing before.
I don't know how much confidence I really had before. I would have such confidence from the Supercross it would carry right over into the National, and I would be fine. And then, like in '94, as you could see, you know, some of our races weren't so good. I was getting third, seconds, leading some, winning some motos, but '95 was unbelievable for me. I mean, it was the best year of my life, and I think that I have a handle on my confidence and the way that I ride the Nationals now, and I'm looking really a lot forward to Gainesville.
The 250s now on the line as Jeremy McGrath puts the goggles on. Skip Norfolk, his final instructions right there at the gate.
There's Jeff Emig coming off a couple of second-place finishes in the indoor. He's the only guy this year that's been able to beat Jeremy McGrath. This could be the story right here. McGrath had a little trouble with Emig last year in the outdoor. Emig was second overall, of course, in that, and I'd probably like to change that #2 to a 1, and this is his opportunity. And Ryan Hughes getting his gas tank topped off by his mechanic Wyatt Seals after the parade lap. Make sure they got enough fuel to go the distance. Rhino moving up to the 250 class this year. Says he likes the 250 better, and we'll find out in a few minutes if it's really going to pay off for him. He's got the strength. There's Doug Henry. He made his debut in the Atlanta Supercross a week ago, and he looked pretty strong there. This is going to be a little tougher, 2 30-minute motos, and I don't think he's going to be up to full speed and strength, but I think he'll get tough as the season goes on. He doesn't, you know, I expected to see him look stiff after that injury, but he looks the same Doug Henry as he used to, jumping everything and aggressive.
Back to Jeremy McGrath, Skip Norfolk yelling into his ear as the bikes rev up here at the gate. Visualizing the start about this time?
Well, I'm not really sure what he does. You know, everyone's nervous. LaRocco really, this is an opportunity for him to get something started. The Supercross series is pretty much gone. But for McGrath, you know, it's just the same thing as always. His mechanic talking to him, getting him pumped up.
Okay, we're ready to go right now. Let's see how Jeremy McGrath gets out of the gate with Emig right next to him, and it's McGrath the whole shot. He picks up right where he left off. Emig, though, is giving him some pressure on the outside out of turn 1.
That's pretty neat. #1 and 2.
And then that's Albertine 16 on the Suzuki in third.
So Emig moves back around. He's in the second spot. #1 and 2, the 2 fastest guys from last year in the Nationals, doing battle. McGrath, though, still has that lead. If Emig's going to do anything, he's going to have to do it in the first lap, because typically McGrath gets away.
And the rut's pretty deep after an afternoon's worth of action before we get to the 250s. Jeremy McGrath #1, Emig #2, Albertine in the third spot.
Well, listen to him run the throttle wide open. I'm not sure who that was. The bikes all sound about the same, but you can see right there, Emig decided not to do that.
Albertine did the double up the elevator, and you just mentioned that Emig didn't do it.
Right, I don't think Emig had a very good line coming out of the corner. He was trying to get in there and tuck inside of McGrath. I think that was him running the throttle wide open. And look at Emig going all back and forth across the racetrack, cutting off Albertine, but Albertine finally takes it away from him. And all you can see, McGrath's got a little lead.
Well, everybody knows Emig likes to use all the track.
Well, he does.
Like I play golf. I see a lot of the course. Here we go. A good battle for second place.
And a good start for Ryan Hughes. He's right back there in fourth. And you know, as long as he can see up to the leaders, I think he'll be pretty effective out there on this 250. But what remains to be seen is whether he can go the distance.
We'll be right back, and we go to last year when
Overall.
Back to our action at hand. It's Jeremy McGrath in first, Albertine in second, Emig number 2 in third in front of his teammate Ryan Hughes. Here's McGrath coming off the hill. Albertine, a terrific start for Greg, just like in the first moto last year.
Right, it looked like he actually lost a little bit of time to McGrath in that first lap, but now he's actually closed the gap as Ryan Hughes has to Jeff Emig, but Hughes didn't do that elevator shaft, and you know, I think it's tough to do when you're right behind somebody. They're kicking up dust. You can't see your line, and you're not going to take any chances there.
That could be a decider throughout the afternoon. Coming out of that corner, getting enough lift to take the double, not a single.
Right. Well, last year you were in third, fourth gear. You had a long straightaway leading up to it. It was pretty easy for most of the guys. This year, we're seeing that as really separating the men from the boys. If you don't get a good run out of the corner, you can't do it.
Out of the big sweep and into the whoops, it's Jeremy McGrath, but Greg Albertine is right there. Albertine expecting more of himself this year in the National Outdoors.
Well, he's definitely putting the pressure on McGrath right now. I think Jeremy, perhaps in that first lap, he started to pull away a little bit, and it's possible that, I remember how it used to be for me. I would settle into a pace and go, well, this must be good enough. I got a little breathing room here, and all of a sudden, somebody picks it up a little bit, and then you have to readjust, and that can sometimes make you nervous. And the last thing McGrath wants to do is let Albertine get around him, because you know, that he might hold him back, and that would allow Emig and Hughes perhaps to catch up to him. So it's important for McGrath to just push forward and make Albertine really work hard for it.
By the majority of the record crowd down into the pit as we come back up to the finish line jump, it is Jeremy McGrath. His overall victory last year, the first win of the season, of course, getting him off to a great start for his championship season. It's interesting, I think, to note here at Gatorback Park that in 14 races of 250, as we see Skip Norfolk giving Jeremy his board, but in 14 prior races, 9 times the winner of Gatorback has gone on to win the 250 title.
Well, I remember it hasn't always been the opener. I won it in 1983. It was actually the third or fourth race of the series, but it still applied. Mark Barnett also won that day in the 125 class. We both went on to win the title.
Mark Barnett, who came back to work this track into terrific condition after the rains earlier in the week. And, of course, our buddy David Bailey here working on the telecast. You can't get away from it anyway. Almost getting away from him, Jeff Emig on his Kawasaki, as Ryan Hughes picks up some room there in 4th place behind Jeff.
That's a real tricky section. They're coming up to that elevator shaft again. We'll see what happens. Emig decides to go for it, and once again, Ryan Hughes doesn't do it. You know, he had to ride through a little dust cloud there on the takeoff. Maybe he just can't see where he's going enough. He's not sure what his teammate's going to do. He's playing it safe.
A great battle for first place here in Moto number 1 of the 250s. Albertine putting the pressure on Jeremy McGrath, the defending champion. Let's go down to the pit area now. Davey Coombs, I believe, is with Skip Norfolk. Davey.
Skip, who is Jeremy more concerned about, the Suzuki behind him or the 2 Kawasaki's?
Well, right now he's got to be concerned with Albie. You know, over the back, he's put some pressure on him. Jeremy's able to pull away on this side of the track. It's an early race. Last year, Albie seemed to fade a little bit towards the latter part. Jeremy's strong. You know, it's early. We got about 30 minutes of racing left to go.
Long motos here in motocross, 30 minutes plus 2 laps. Jeremy McGrath out in front. Greg Albertine still holding on to 2nd place and not that far from Jeremy.
This record crowd, you can hear in the background, they're digging it. They want to see somebody challenge McGrath. I don't think they necessarily want to see him get beat. They just want to see him challenged, and he's getting all he can handle right now from Albertine, and Emig and Hughes are still pretty close.
Anybody makes a mistake, these two could very well take over. Emig in 3rd, Hughes in 4th place. That hairpin turn and then the acceleration down the hill before going back up on the finish line jump. Hughes accelerating. He's on the left. Oh, my goodness. He hit his chin on the bar. And yet he's still taking on Jeff Emig.
Yeah, this kid is so strong. He's a fighter. I've said that 100 times, but you can see it. He wants to get around his teammates so bad. I think Emig's holding him up right now, and there aren't many guys in the circuit that can absorb an impact like that and just keep on going. I was going to nickname him Timex. Man, this kid takes a licking and keeps on ticking. Look how high he goes. And I don't think he was really very tall on the motorcycle, and well, he wasn't able to absorb that as well as I think he could have, but what an impact. I think he hit his chest in the crossbar as well.
That also says a lot for the suspensions of these bikes taking that kind of impact.
Well, it sure does. And, you know, you look at Ryan Hughes, he's riding as hard as he can, and he still can't get around his teammate, and they're off the pace of McGrath. So welcome to the 250s.
McGrath, Albertine, and Emig are top 3, with Hughes and LaRocco in the top 5. We'll be back with more 250 action in a moment. Cycle Park, as we've got quite a battle going on. You see there, number 2, Emig, number 5, Hughes. They are riding behind Jeremy McGrath and Greg Albertine.
These guys really starting to put the pressure on Albertine right now. This battle really shaping up for second place.
Albertine sat out Atlanta, the Supercross series, to get physically ready for this matchup. Davey Coombs is with Wyatt Seals down the pit area.
It looks like Rhino's having a hard time getting around Jeff. He can't get the leaders till he gets around his teammate. Is that going to create a problem?
Well, I hope it doesn't create a problem. I mean, I'm sure that he's a little bit frustrated right now. I think Jeff's holding him up, definitely. And it's keeping him, you know, it's letting Jeremy get away. And we all know what happens when Jeremy gets away.
We'll keep an eye on that as the race goes on.
Ryan Hughes getting a lot of valuable experience with more powerful machines in the 500 at the Motocross des Nations, running 250 in Supercross, and now here in the outdoors.
I think the more horsepower you give him, the more mellow he rides. And when he can tone it down a little bit, he starts to ride really good and put the lines together. He's got all the talent. One thing he doesn't lack is his determination.
There, ooh, he almost cased that double on the elevator. Maybe that's why he didn't try it the first 2 times we saw him.
Yeah, you could hear it bottom out, metal to metal. So, I mean, that's a hard impact. When you go past that bump rubber and you hear metal to metal, you're landing hard. That's twice now in a matter of a lap or 2 that he's had a hard impact. So this kid is giving it everything he's got, and he's probably got to wonder, what else do I have to give? I mean, he's still not up to the pace of McGrath.
You saw McGrath, Albertine, Emig. Albertine coming into our picture. Number 16, the South African, in his second outdoor series here in the Nationals. After coming over as a former world champion, 3-time world champion in motocross in Europe.
I think Albertine really shines more in the outdoor races, and you must like Gatorback, because every time they come here, he's fast. Put a lot of pressure on McGrath those early laps. He's starting to lose that a little bit now. You can see McGrath already starting down into the pit. He's got a comfortable distance. Now it looks like Albertine's going to have company from the Kawasaki guys, and that may force him to ride more defensive, and like Wyatt said, that's going to let McGrath get away.
Boy, and McGrath has taken advantage of it. On that last shot, you saw the interval between McGrath and Albertine as he's already off the finish line jump, and Albertine is landing. We're going to have a good 3-way battle, it looks like, for second place, David.
And if you look back, yeah, definitely. And when you look back behind these guys, there's nobody. You know, where the heck is LaRocco and Bradshaw, guys like that, Lawrence? I would expect to see them up there, even perhaps Henry, but they all must have gotten a pretty poor start. These guys, you could probably fall down and pick it up and still not lose a position.
Hughes battling with Emig as we get set to break away for a moment. Our leader still, Jeremy McGrath, is pulling away. Albertine still in second place, but he's got a battle on his hands. David Bailey and Davey Coombs bringing you the action. You see the interval there with Jeremy McGrath and the second place rider, Greg Albertine, but right next to him is number 2, Jeff Emig, and number 5, Ryan Hughes on the Kawasaki's.
Section is tough. You can see Albertine swapping around. They come in there in like 4th gear, and then they actually have to go through it under braking for that left-hander.
Let's go down to the mechanics area. Davey Coombs. Davey?
Okay, we're down here with Jeremy Albrecht. This is Jeff Emig's mechanic. What kind of strategy do you think Jeff's going to use to try and pass Albie?
Well, he's just trying to relax and breathe. It's a long race, and I mean, he knows what he has to do to win. He's been doing this a long time, so he'll do it.
Is he going to settle for second if he gets a second, or is he going to ride to Jeremy?
He knows it. I mean, he might settle for second knowing he can win the next moto and get the overall, but he knows he has to at least get second to be in the running, so.
All right, thanks, Jeremy.
Sounds funny, David, to hear him remind him to breathe, but it's an essential part because a lot of us hold our breath through exciting times.
Right. You think, you know, duh. I mean, how hard is it to remember how to breathe? But if you think about it, if you hold your breath at all, you tense up automatically. So they have to remind these guys to breathe. Anything you do, art, martial arts, yoga, whether you, I mean, my wife, when she had a baby, breathing is so important.
Number 8, Mike LaRocco, a moto winner last year here, is in 5th position. But he's a long way back from that pack of 3 battling for second place.
Yeah, this must be pretty frustrating for Mike, winning the first moto here last year, really being the dominant guy and being way off the pace. It might be because of his start, but still, it's...
Oh, Albert Albertine went down, and the two Kawasaki's went by the Suzuki, moving into second and third. That's a lapper, but Albertine gets right back up. He's still in fourth place. Final lap, Jeremy McGrath way out in front. He has dominated this race from the very beginning. That was after a skirmish with Greg Albertine just for the first few laps.
But you can see the difference between McGrath and Greg Albertine. Albertine going down, losing positions, dropping way off the pace, and once again, McGrath, perfect.
Well, he certainly looks perfect. He makes it look awfully easy. You know, just to look at it here, you don't know he's shifting and braking and thinking about all the ruts, and this track is really rutted up.
Well, the track is becoming more difficult as the days continue. It's gotten slick here and there. You can see his lines are really good. He carries a lot of momentum. Even through there in this tricky section, his lines all come together, and that's why he just inches away. And, look how clean he is. I don't think Skip's going to even have to wash the bike between motos. Just put gas in it, check the chain, and hang out, have a sandwich.
Well, those ruts now are looking like you could catch a peg in it.
Now, some of them are starting to get deep. McGrath right there, a lot of times in the last couple of laps, especially if you've got a lead, you can experiment. It looked like to me he did just that. He went into that berm, about halfway through the berm, he cut out to the inside, and he got a stronger run at that elevator shaft because that main line's going to get rougher, so he's already thinking ahead.
Jeremy McGrath with a brilliant race to lead off the motocross season. Still showing the speed he did earlier coming through those whoops.
Well, you can see how far back it is to second place. You barely get a glimpse of somebody. Not even sure if it was a lapper or not. Now a little wheelie for the fans. Very much a showman. He knows how important that is to be a popular motocross rider. It's not just talent. It's the interaction with the fans and being able to set up the bike, promote yourself. And McGrath's done a good job of it. And I can't believe how many wins he's strung together in such a short period of time.
Really, because he had some sweeps there at the end of last year. Jeremy McGrath to the cheers of the record-breaking crowd here at Gatorback Cycle Park. Taking the turn now for his final ride, at least in Moto 1, of going down into the pit.
You see him jump that plateau there. He leans way forward, taps the brakes, sets the front end down. I mean, everything that he does, the amateurs are watching going, wow, did you see that? And for him, it's just second nature. It's got to feel great. A lot more competition this year, and he still showed him he's the best.
The checkers for Jeremy. Going back to last season, David Bailey, his 6th consecutive Moto win.
Last year finished third here in the first moto, way off the pace, bringing the confidence that goes along with that #1 plate, starting off this season even stronger.
Jeremy McGrath, the victor in Moto 1 with Emig and Hughes on the platform with him. Albertine and LaRocco rounding out the top 5. Then Bradshaw, a 6th place finish. Let's go to Davey Combs with Jeremy.
We're down here in the winner's circle with Jeremy McGrath. Jeremy, indoors, outdoors, still undefeated.
Well, I feel pretty good out here today. You know, it's got to get used to riding that rough stuff again. I'm kind of got a little cold. I think the cold's good luck for me here at Gainesville, and it turned out good the first moto.
You finished just like you finished the second moto last year here with a runaway. How do you feel going into the second moto this time?
I mean, I feel strong. At first half of the moto, I was kind of a little nervous. I think it was Albie on my tail or someone, and he was putting a fender in there, so it's getting me a little nervous. As soon as I found the groove, I started pulling away, so I'm looking good for second moto.
Yeah, and how did you feel at the end of this moto? You feel strong?
Oh, yeah, I feel real strong. Only thing, my hand's a little sore, but just comes with time.
All right. Congratulations, Jeremy.
Thanks.
We'll be back with Moto number 2.
So what?
David Bailey, as we get set for Moto number 2 now. After winning at Jeremy McGrath, let's see what he can do with the whole shot here. And it's Emig, Jeff Emig, getting the whole shot with Hughes in second. Guy Cooper, number 50, in third. And McGrath is fourth. Albertine went down in the first turn. Bradshaw's in fifth. Here's our leader right now out of the box, Jeff Emig. And he's got a Kawasaki teammate right behind him before Jeremy McGrath has a chance.
Well, that's real good news for Emig, and really pretty good opportunity for Ryan Hughes. He looked good in that first moto. He did a lot better than I expected in his first ride on a 250.
Number 50 is Guy Cooper.
Wow.
33 years old. He's now more in endurance riding and cross-country riding after his supercross and motocross career.
I would have expected him to jump that elevator right there, but I think Ryan Hughes is in the way. I don't expect Cooper to stay up there for very long, but he can go fast for a few laps, and now McGrath's behind him, so that might be a problem. By the time McGrath gets around Cooper and Hughes, Emig could be long gone.
Jeff Emig and Ryan Hughes, 1 and 2 with Cooper, McGrath in that order. as they come out of the sweeper and go into those whoops.
Already, Emig's got a pretty good lead, and Bradshaw.
Look at Bradshaw, number 28 on the left side.
Yeah, he's tucked in. Looks like a road racer. Well, he's flying around the sweeper, and he's actually made up a little bit of time on McGrath right there. There's Doug Henry, number 15, coming into your screen. Not a very good start, and pretty poor first moto, but he's got to start somewhere.
Right now, it's more of a conditioning thing than a confidence thing, really, isn't it, David Bailey, because of being out so long with the broken back?
Right. Well, I mean, first is the question of how is that back? How strong is it? And I really, even when he gets fit, I still think he's not fully back until he wipes out once pretty hard. I mean, that's still something to think about.
McGrath has gotten by number 50, Guy Cooper, and right now putting the heat on is Damon Bradshaw, number 28, riding very smoothly.
I like that line as he came down the hill. Looks like he's got the speed, stays a little lower and makes the pass, but he set that up coming into that pit. He actually went out over the berm to set all that up.
Emig, our leader, Bradshaw in fourth. We'll be back. As out in front is Jeff Emig, the first green bike you see there. Ryan Hughes in second place, and Jeremy McGrath, the winner of the first moto, trying to pull up on the Kawasaki's.
When that first lap, Emig was gone. He had a pretty good lead. Now they've closed back up. I think Hughes feels the pressure from...
Here comes Jeremy, moving into second place. Can he hold on to it? Great bar-to-bar battle.
It looked like they kind of locked elbows there. Ryan Hughes, he's going right back after him, trying to square off on McGrath under the inside right there. Here he comes in on the outside. He's doing the right thing, but unfortunately McGrath is around him, and if he can't get him right back, McGrath may be gone. Now the battle's probably going to be for the lead, and if Hughes can hang on, he'll have a good chance to make a statement in the 250 class.
Right now, the crowd is anticipating now. How fast can Jeremy catch up with Jeff Emig?
Pretty quick, but I think the question really is how fast can he pass him? Right here's another look at the pass on Hughes. Well, he just about took the front wheel of Hughes. Look how close they got right there, kind of overlapping elbows, and as they went over the jump, they both sort of steered away from each other, but that was close.
Emig number 1, Jeremy McGrath number 2, as Jeremy has his sights on the number 2 bike right now. And look at that, a golf clap.
Well, that's something between the two guys. I know they both golf any chance they get, and it Skip's pretty funny. Anything you can do to keep McGrath light out there.
Right now, Emig trying to hold off Jeremy McGrath. Let's go down to Davey Coombs in the mechanics area.
Skip, we noticed your last signal to Jeremy before this lap was you own him.
Well, yeah, he feels pretty confident right now, and their lap times are almost 4 seconds faster. Jeff, I'm not sure if he didn't seem like he could hold on the first moto, and pace being up, to be interesting to see if he can hold on. Jeremy's strong. He knows he can run this pace the whole 30 minutes.
How long do you think Jeremy will wait before he attacks?
Well, I don't think he's going to push it. I think he's going to let it happen up until about the halfway, and then you got to start making things happen once the halfway comes.
Skip Norfolk never at a loss for words, David.
No, he's always got the good response, and he's smart. You know, it's a good team. These guys, neither one of them are ever at a loss for anything.
David, after seeing the landing on that elevator double jump, there's a lot of impact being absorbed there, but we haven't seen the problem with the wheels that we saw last year.
Right. Well, you know, the ground is hard, and they still got the big jumps, but as long as you clear everything, I think Barnett did a good job of eliminating some of those wheel breaking style jumps, some of those dropaways and stuff. And although Emig, he broke a wheel in practice, wasn't able to get very much practice, but a lot less DNFs and stuff like we saw last year. And I think it's completely with the design of the racetrack.
Teams automatically going to the steel nipples on the spokes of the bike when that happened to Emig in practice. Damon Bradshaw, number 28, starting to pull up now toward the leaders to be a contender. Damon always liking this track. He's raced here since minis. Let's go to Davey.
Hey, Steve, it looks like Damon's riding a lot differently than he did in the first moto. What'd you guys talk about between motos?
It's just all about the start, you know, like the first moto, he was back in 15th or something, and just trying to get out there and from the beginning makes it so much easier. And this moto, I think he started right there at 4th or 5th. So just to be there and see, maybe pick up on some of them guys' lines and just see how they, what they're doing to do that speed. And it looks like he's kind of hanging in there. Thanks, Steve.
Hanging in there he is, and doing a very fine job of it. Last year he joined the circuit after the 3rd event of the season, coming out of retirement. Emig, our leader, with McGrath on his heels. As we take a look at the Honda Field summary. Jeff Emig, our leader, in front of Jeremy McGrath here in the second moto after Jeremy took moto number 1.
pretty much with ease, too, and not much of a challenge from Emig. As we pointed out before they started the first moto, Emig's the only guy to beat McGrath this year. He sits in a good position to do it again. And McGrath, you know, I don't see any place on the racetrack where it's really that much faster than Emig. Emig's going to have to make a mistake. He made a little one right there. Still not enough.
He had enough power to come from the outside and seal off Jeremy McGrath. This is quite a commendable performance for Jeff Emig right now, because I think many of the fans in this record-breaking crowd were thinking, hey, it's only a matter of time when Jeremy gets up there, but I think it's taking longer than they anticipated.
Right, well, every time he gets up there, he makes a little bobble, trying a new line, something else where he can make that pass, and Emig is steady enough.
Oh, Mike LaRocco cased it hard on the top of the elevator jump. LaRocco, who got an 11th place start, was trying to come up through the field. Looks like he's holding his forearm a little bit there, but he's kick-starting that Suzuki to get it back into action.
Yeah, he looks like he's in pain, Art. I mean, if that is the top of the elevator jump, and I'm just going to assume if he came up short there, we saw Hughes bottom out there and pull it off. I mean, if he crashed there, he must have came up way short, and you know, we know how many injuries he's had to those arms, and they have to take a beating on an impact like that.
Back out in front, it's Emig number 2 and Jeremy McGrath number 1. And Jeremy unable to really show him a wheel yet as they come over the finish line jump.
You know, I think the strategy might play a part here. I think Jeremy's probably going to set Emig up. I mean, that's what I would do. I would, let's say, Roy says you're smoother.
Roy Turner.
As a team manager, that's kind of a weird thing to put on the board, because Emig, or McGrath's right there, he can read it too. I don't know, really, smoothness isn't going to win this race. Speed is. Now it's a fight, and McGrath is going to pull out everything he can. And what I was beginning to say on that strategy is that if McGrath moves around Emig right now, that gives Emig a chance to retaliate, and he will, believe me. And if McGrath thinks he's faster somewhere on the racetrack, he might be smart to save that till the last lap and not give Emig a chance.
Well, if the strategy doesn't work and Emig wins this moto, he takes the overall, winning the second moto. Jeremy, though, he's going to test him. You know that.
This is that corner before the elevator. And look at, boy, McGrath really having to suck up that roost, and it goes wide at the top. Loses a little bit of time, but it's crucial. He's got to get up over that jump or he loses a second or two.
I noticed one of the lines in the first moto that he won, he was taking an inside line off the elevator jump, which was very unusual. No one else was really doing that till later in the moto.
Well, that's just the skill that McGrath possesses, to be able to jump that jump so perfect and get on the brakes and make that inside. It's not easy to do, and right there, he made a mistake.
Into the whoops. Jeremy McGrath on the left. Emig in the lead. And the whole focus now is out front, which is kind of unusual lately.
Yeah, it sure is. You usually look for the battle to be in second place, but Emig's giving McGrath all he can handle. And I can remember when I was fortunate enough to have a winning streak, and then it was threatening to be broken towards the end of the moto. I started to panic, and you can bet McGrath's getting nervous now.
Looking at our Honda field summary, Emig, McGrath, and Hughes, and we'll be back with the finish of the mechanics area as we check out moto number 2 of our 250 action from Gatorback Cycle Park. It is Jeff Emig who has held on to this lead over Jeremy McGrath after McGrath just dominated the field in moto number 1. Emig now starting to get the test.
Well, that's for sure. I can tell you what it feels like. I've had Johnson breathing down my neck for 30 minutes, and it's no fun. McGrath trying to use the inside to get up that elevator jump.
Oh, that gives Emig a big advantage. Emig able to double. McGrath, after spinning coming out of that corner, didn't have the run at the double.
Yeah, and look how much time he loses. Watch McGrath. He gets on the gas, but you see that whiter colored dirt right there. That's the hard pack stuff. It's slick. It's like riding on a street with sand on it and unable to hook up.
Who's 969? I bet some of the fans are looking that up in the program. That's Ron Tishner. Yes, the former Japanese champion, and Ron is in 6th place now, gunning for 5th.
Now, he's a lot like Bradshaw. I mean, both these guys came up on mini bikes together. They've both ridden probably more laps here on Gainesville than anybody else, especially McGrath or Emig. And this is a pretty fine performance to just kind of show up and ride a race or two in the U.S. before heading back over to Japan and run up near the top 5.
Ron Tishner from nearby Palm Harbor, Florida. In fact, that's the same town that Tim Ferry's in. They ride together, I understand.
And, you know, thinking about that a little bit, if you watch Ferry's style, you'll see that it's quite a bit like Tishner's. I watched Tishner. I used to stay at my house in Virginia when he was riding the 125 class before he headed over to Japan. And really has a good riding style, and I kind of thought that he would have mounted to a little bit more than he has so far, Ed.
Oh, Albertine going down again. That'll drop him to about 10th position now as we see our leader Jeff Emig coming over the start-finish line. More pressure from Jeremy McGrath.
That's the dirtiest I've seen McGrath all year, Art. I mean, he's always in the lead after the first couple of laps. Look how clean Emig is.
Emig really accelerating through there. Brakes hard to take the tight turn. McGrath is not having an easy time of it staying up with him, especially if he doesn't take the double on the elevator jump. I think he lost about a second on that particular move last time.
Yeah, and he steadily gains a little bit of that time back, and then they come around to it again, and if he's unable to do it this lap, that could ice it for Emig. He might be able to pick this up because we're getting down to the wire here.
Ooh, look how deep those ruts are getting now on that turn as they accelerate up that hill in the corner.
And Emig had a neat line coming out of that corner. He just picked it up on the rear wheel and rode it through there. Those bumps you can't see from the angle we're at. If you're riding into them, they're sharp, and some of them are at an angle. So if you get the front end over them and power through there, it's the best way to get through there. Now it's a pretty good lead they've got over Ryan Hughes now, 13, almost 14 seconds.
A lonely third for Ryan, but he's hanging in there.
Yeah, not too bad for Ryan. He's still not jumping that elevator jump, and you know, if you're losing a second a lap, that's about the difference right there.
Ryan Hughes, a third place in the first moto, currently in third again. He'd be well off points-wise.
Sure, this is a great performance for him. First time in the 250 Nationals and third in both motos. He was in contact. He was up there running with Jeremy for a little while. At least he got a look at him. It's a lot better to have a look at him and then drop back than it is to never see him at all.
And after such an emotional rivalry last year of losing the 125 crown in the last moto to Steve Lampson, I'll never forget when his chain broke and he pushed his bike over the finish line to the cheers of the fans, and he just collapsed right after the finish line.
Well, he may not have won that battle, but he proved that he has the guts to do what it takes to get across the finish line, and in the long run, that's going to pay off.
Only 22 years of age. He's got a lot of riding ahead of him, hopefully. From Escondido, California. You get a little sand out in that area, don't you?
A little bit. They got a lot of different practice tracks they ride on. I know the Kawasaki test track is fairly hard packed, but he goes out to some other local tracks, and he lives pretty close to me. I see him every now and then. I can tell you one thing, this kid trains really hard. He's in the best shape of anybody out there. I don't think there's anybody in any better shape than he is, that's for sure.
Okay, Jeremy McGrath now has picked up a little bit on Jeff Emig as they come around turn one after the finish line jump. It seems like McGrath loses time over near the elevator jump and now picks it up by the time they get back into turn one.
And listen to all the yelling. You can hear the intensity in the mechanics area. That's not just the mechanic now. It's the mechanic, it's the suspension guys, the team managers, Wes McCoy, Jeff Stanton. I can see him out on the racetrack. Everyone's yelling. This is getting down to the wire, and for the first time this year, McGrath just might lose.
Well, in motocross, he hasn't won them all. He had a championship run last year, winning 12 of 24 motos. Great percentage.
It doesn't get much better than that. I mean, you know, he won the title and he won half the races, and you know, when you do that, the momentum is all yours. And if he loses this here today, that momentum, it's only one race, Art, but that's all it takes for that momentum to shift. And he's got to get around Emig to keep that. Right here is a crucial. Now, he jumps it, so he's going to stay in contact, but still kind of gets stuck out there on that outside line. So he loses a little bit of time, regardless of the fact that he still jumped that elevator.
Our Honda Field summary, Emig, McGrath, Hughes in that order, with Larry Ward moving up into fourth. Number 2 has led the entire race here in Moto 2, but Jeremy McGrath is right on his tail. This has been Jeremy's tough area.
Well, he's going to the inside again. He keeps making mistakes. Oh, once again, he gets into that hard pack slick stuff. Emig jumps that double, and McGrath unable to do it. This time, though, McGrath uses the inside around the top. So actually, when you weigh it all out, I think he's not going to lose that much time there. It would have been a lot better if he could have done it.
Still gives Jeff Emig a break. Emig in first, McGrath in second, and Hughes a distant third.
And Emig, look at the way he goes through that sweeper, carrying a lot of speed through the corners. You know, Emig's lines, occasionally he makes me hold my breath a little because he goes wide and leaves the door open, but he's got the confidence and the momentum to hold on to that lead.
The 26-year-old from Riverside, California. He ended up second in the points last year with 1 overall. That was at Southwick, but he had 5 moto wins on the season.
There's mechanics looking on. just crossing his fingers. That's about all he can do. There's nothing mechanic can do now. That bike's going to hold up. McGrath, though, putting the pressure on.
This is breathtaking for the fans to see this duel all the way. Race long. Emig making the move. McGrath's mechanic Skip Norfolk, and he's with Davey.
Skip, it seems like every time Jeremy gets close enough to take a shot at Jeff, something happens. Either he doesn't do the uphill jump or Emig moves over on him.
Yeah, well, he's trying to inside line back here on that, what they call the elevator, I guess, and it's pretty hard and slick, and you just got to commit. And I hope he's trying to set him up for something in there. So, you know, it's way past the halfway. We're down to 3 laps left. He's got to make it happen now, or it's not going to.
Jeremy McGrath showing the doubters last year that he could win an outdoor national title. Said he learned a lot about how to ride a motocross as adverse to supercross.
Yeah, well, he proved it. He's got the #1 plate to prove it. He's coming up to the elevator again. Looks like he's got the speed. No, he doesn't jump it again, so he's going to lose a lot of time. Maybe that lapper had something to do with it, but going back to what you said, Art, you know, he did learn a lot, but one thing that remains to be seen is if he can win a race at the very end like this. He's always got a big lead by this time. He never has to dig this deep, and right now he's dirty, he's tired, he's digging deep, and Emig has still got a comfortable lead.
I can't imagine a more exciting race to start the season with.
Well, it's a perfect time for them to build a brand new track here in Gainesville, and for a record crowd, they're getting all that they came to see right now. Emig, he looks like he might be able to pull this off. McGrath is making more mistakes than he usually makes.
24 years old on the Team Honda. Returning to the spot with his very first national overall. He's trying to do it again, but he has to take the lead away from Jeff Emig in the last 2 laps. We're approaching the end of the 3rd lap. Jeff Emig, you can see, made a little time out of the whoops.
You know, once you've had the lead as long as Emig has, and McGrath has been back there, every once in a while he presents a challenge and he loses some time and you get a little breathing room. I mean, after a while, when you're the leader, you start to not be as concerned about it. So for McGrath to really put pressure on Emig and force him into a mistake, he's got to stay that close, if not closer, for any hopes at all at pushing Emig into a mistake.
Over the finish line jump, it's boom, boom. It's that close, and here comes Jeremy McGrath to the inside, but Emig just enough steam to take into that first turn out in front. He cuts inside. McGrath goes wide. It's looking like bar to bar. McGrath makes the pass. Oh, with less than 2 laps remaining. And Emig comes back. Emig hits him and goes down. So Jeremy McGrath is handed a gift.
Oh, I don't believe it. McGrath, Emig must have got in there and tried to square him back off and hit him. McGrath looked over, and now, boy, what a relief. Emig gets going. He's got some things bent on his bike. But I think they got enough of a lead over Hughes where he'll be able to hang on to 2nd place. But there's Jeff Stanton and a couple of fans. Glad to see McGrath pull it off. Boy, that was a tough one.
Jeremy McGrath surviving as Jeff Emig. Boy, the pressure was on him all the way. And I think you were right about the strategy. Jeremy McGrath knew he was going to make a move here, maybe.
Oh, that's what I would have done. It was just a guess. But McGrath was setting Emig up in that corner, I think, every lap. And he may have faked him out. As he went into that long left, you saw him going on the inside, and Emig covered it. And McGrath carried all his momentum right back out to that outside berm, held it wide open. He knew that would position him to the inside, and if he got up next to him, he'd control the corner, and it worked.
Really doesn't have to utilize the Honda power right now. As you see Jeff Emig in 2nd place. Bike is a little bit bent up after falling down. But Jeremy McGrath with a good 9-second lead at least.
Well, I can't think of anybody that hates to lose more than Jeff Emig. And he's been so close, it's got to be a bummer, but he's got to be proud of the way he rode today. You know, no one's been able to put that kind of pressure on McGrath all year, especially for that length of time. And, you know, he knows that he's got the speed. He's just got to try to keep it on 2 wheels to the very last lap.
White flag is out. This is the final lap for Jeremy McGrath. A chance for a sweep. And what a way to start the season.
You see the track now starting to get a lot rougher. McGrath using that wide line again. And he really doesn't have any pressure now. This is what he's used to, going around with a big, comfortable lead, acknowledging the fans, and just savoring this thing. By the time he gets to the winner's circle, the emotion's gone. He already soaked it all up.
Well, it's been a beautiful day here in Gainesville, Florida. Later on in the summer, it becomes very taxing as we go to the Midwest and that humidity.
Right, and you know, the thing is before, or last year actually, or coming in, that was one of McGrath's weaknesses, is his fitness. Could he go the distance outdoors and perform in the heat? And last year in some of the hottest races was where he really shined. So now that he's proven to me that he has the ability to win a race in a pressure situation and coming down to the wire. He has no weakness. I guess you'd have to follow him around during the week at home to find one, because you're not going to find one here at the races.
Well, this event here at Gatorback Cycle Park is the first of 14 consecutive weeks that these crews would be preparing bikes for either a Supercross or Motocross.
Well, that makes it so important for the riders to maintain, not train too hard. You can overtrain. You can actually make yourself sick. These guys go from cold weather to warm weather. It's tough to stay healthy, and for the mechanics too. These guys work just as hard as the riders. Actually, the riders got the easy part. They just show up and everything's shiny and ready to go.
Jeremy last year won the overall. He had a bad case of the flu, a heavy fever. And in fact, when you won, you had some abnormalities.
Well, I came in with a broken foot. I wore a cast and a size 13 boot on my foot, and I just came to hoping to get points, kind of like Doug Henry did today, and I ended up winning with a 5th and a 2nd. So you never know.
Jeremy McGrath. That's one of the few times you'll see him go that high. He usually controls it and keeps the power down low. Jeremy McGrath in the final lap of this second moto after winning the first moto, dominating that. But boy, did the fans see one great race in this moto.
That's also about the dirtiest you're going to see McGrath on a day that's not muddy. Got to be a great feeling. About 50 yards to go to the finish.
Up the hill, he can see the checkered flag waving as he crosses the finish line. Jeremy McGrath, his 7th straight moto win, if you go back to last year, and his 4th straight overall. Dominance?
Well, I'd say that's an understatement at this point. I mean, he hasn't lost anything. Emmig's the only guy that could beat him. Well, that was only in a heat race.
Jeremy McGrath first, Emig, Hughes, Bradshaw, and Tishner gets into the top 5. Larry Ward, Kyle Lewis, Phil Lawrence, Button, and Albertine rounding out the top 10.
Jeremy, congratulations on another Gatorback win. This is your 2nd year in the row in 250 class and the 3rd of your career, right?
Yeah, I think so. I won one here on 125. So, yeah, I'm stoked. That was a long, hard fight in the second moto between Jeff and I. And, you know, I guess when push came to shove, I was out in front.
It seemed like a couple of times he'd get close to you, or rather, I should say you would get close to him, then he'd either come across on you or you'd mess up on the big uphill jump. What was going on?
Well, I was trying to take inside line and maybe kind of take his line away from him going up the big double, but I couldn't get kind of close enough. It was too bumpy, and he'd always get a line on me there. And also, I kind of ran out of tear-offs, following too much.
What about the pass over here in the first turn?
Yeah, I just figured I was following him the whole time. You know, inside, just falling, and waiting for a mistake. So I just figured I was close enough. I just changed my line, go to the outside, and it ended up working out. My Honda had some mass power and came out in front.
And so the undefeated season goes on.
Yeah, it's good so far. I want to take it on into next week. We have Daytona, and if I ride this strong in Daytona, I'll be really happy.
Congratulations, Jeremy.
Thanks a lot.
Jeremy with 2 firsts on the day, Emig with 2 seconds, Hughes with 2 thirds, Damon Bradshaw, a good ride. Davey Combs is with Jeff Emig.
Seems like for 30 minutes you had him right where you want him. What happened?
You know, this turnout here by the start, I was riding the inside, and I wasn't the fastest up in this section, and Jeremy was really fast, through the upper section. And when I came through my usual berm there on the inside, it was all blown out, and it kind of, I kind of lost all my drive coming out of the turn, and then that's when McGrath got on the outside of me there.
And what about in the next corner when you fell?
Well, the next corner, I went to get him back right away, and I mean, just lost traction on the rear end, I guess. I mean, basically, that's all that happened.
Jeremy McGrath, the overall victor. The riders now in the crews going back to 7 rounds of Supercross before our next Motocross Outdoor National in Sacramento, California. But quite a day and quite a race for these two. Art Ekman for David Bailey and Davey Combs saying